The acronym that you're talking about, RICE, is the acronym that CIA uses to identify the core, what we call the core motivation of any individual. And all people are susceptible to all four of these different motivations, but they vary in intensity and they vary in duration based on where you are in your life, right? So the R stands for reward. All of us are viable. All of us can be motivated by reward. Reward is something that is externally given to you. You're rewarded with a salary. You're rewarded with a prize. You're rewarded with a pat on the back, an attaboy. You're rewarded with a party, right? Whatever. You're rewarded with a kiss at the end of your date. Rewards can be quite motivating.
Totally.
The I is ideology, right? Ideology is motivating to all of us, whether it's your belief set as a Christian or as a Muslim or as a Buddhist, or whether it's just your values as how you were raised. In this neighborhood, we do this. In this household, we do this, right? This is the way it is because this is the way your dad did it and your dad before him and your dad before him. That's all ideology. The C stands for coercion. Coercion is all that stuff that makes us feel bad. Fear, guilt, shame. Those motivate us all the time.
Would blackmail fall under coercion?
Absolutely, right? Something that makes you feel bad. You feel scared to do something because someone else is going to expose you. You feel humiliated, right? You feel embarrassed. And then the E stands for ego. Ego is not the same thing as egotism, right? Ego is how you want to shape your reputation, how you want to be viewed. That's what ego really means. Egotistical means you think you're the best.
But I think that there's something similar. I'd love to hear your distinction between reward and ego, because the inflation of the ego is a certain type of reward.
Absolutely.
In a way, because if like you will be a hero, like your name will echo in the halls of eternity and we'll inscribe this plaque for you and you'll be here. Like it's focusing on the ego really to say like your name will live on in this glorious way or your status will grow. But it is kind of a reward at the same time, but it's a reward for your separate self, not your soul self. This is not but it's interesting. They're related, I guess, in a way.
Exactly. Well, they are related, but then also the important thing to understand about ego is that how people want to be viewed oftentimes is divergent from a reward. Sometimes people want to be unknown. People want to be seen as sacrificial. People want to be forgotten. That's part of their ego, right? You've heard of people who like to work behind the scenes.
Yep.
There's no faster way to upset somebody than by bringing them out from behind the scenes and making them the center of attention. They get really upset about that.
Yeah.
So you've got to let them stay behind the scenes.
Right.
That is an ego-based driver, right? You don't want to reward them according to the standards of reward. You are essentially, to your point, rewarding them by not acknowledging their existence or by not bringing them into the public spotlight.
I understand. All right. So let's say you have a subject, you have a mark. You basically would go through an analysis to see where is the thumbscrew, where is the susceptibility, right? Is that I imagine that's part of your training. It's like if you have a mark, it's like, where is it?
So our terminology is you have a target.
Yeah.
And then not a mark, but a target. And then you assess, not analyze, you assess the motivational drivers of that target, right? And as you assess those motivational drivers, you start to realize, well, here's their ideology. Here's their susceptibility to reward. Here's the ego that they're trying to build for themselves. Here are their areas of guilt, shame, embarrassment, etc. And now you kind of have, if you think about like a musician or the producer of a piece of music, they have that big board and they can turn up and turn down the different dials on the board to blend the music together. That's basically what all of us are, is a soundboard that can be blended. Just the right amount of ideological leverage, just the right amount of ego-based leverage, and just the right amount of coercion at any given moment on any given topic could be enough to get us to take action in a way that suits the handler, the person who's handling us.
I'm thinking back. I took a trip to Moscow when I was probably, 26, 27. And I would have been highly susceptible to a Red Sparrow program at that point in time. Like if they were analyzing me, if they really wanted to get something like that level because of my constitution at that point. Anything else, I've been like, fuck you. Like I'll stand and die for my goodness. But actually if some beautiful Russian came in and I'd be like, hello, what do you want to know? Like, so it's very interesting to even do this analysis on yourself and say like, all right, where could I be susceptible? Where could we all be susceptible? And not that we're all going to be targets, because God willing, we won't be. But nonetheless, like, where are our susceptibilities? And then actually it's almost a kind of like a self-checkup that you could do, using that framework to say like, how could I be manipulated?
So I love the idea that we can use this to improve ourselves. And that's exactly what, if you think about it, all things have two sides, like a coin, right? So the flip side to your motivational levers is understanding that they're also malleable or manipulatable levers. So by understanding your own motivational levers, you can protect yourself from being manipulated. But you can also identify what it takes to motivate yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So there's two benefits here. The reason that's so important is because I agree with you, God willing, we're not all targets. But what's been fascinating to me in my experience with espionage is that we all are targets all the time.
Yeah. There's like global propaganda that's designed to manipulate us into certain behavioral patterns.
And then there's all sorts of different levels of how we're being targeted. Some of us are being targeted by foreign adversaries. Some of us are being targeted by local businesses. Some of us are being targeted by aspiring politicians. Some of us are being targeted by current for-profit news organizations, right? We're all being targeted. And what the Rice framework allows you to do is start to put vocabulary and structure around the process that has been systematized by all of the organizations. It doesn't matter whether it's NPR, CNN, Fox News, Christian Science Monitor, whether it's the Trump campaign or the Biden campaign. It doesn't matter what the outside organization is. They're all using the same systematic process, tapping on your sense of reward, your sense of belonging if you vote for me, your sense of how positive the future will look for you if you say yes to this policy, right? They're all tapping on your ideology. God wants this. God doesn't want this. Your parents would be proud of you. Your parents would be ashamed of you, right? They're all tapping on your coercion. Oh, think about how much your 401k is going to lose. Think about how much power in America is going to be lost. They're all tapping on that sense of coercion. They're all tapping on your ego. Are you with us or against us? Are you for America or against America?
If you follow this line of thinking, you're better than all of these other people, so you can look down upon them.
Right.
And I think that's this idea that's kind of gotten in where people are really unaware that a lot of the virtue that they think they have has been co-opted by this subtle desire to claim yourself as better than your neighbor. Like, I'm vaccinated, so therefore I'm better than you. And now everybody who I can look around, I know that I'm better than they are. And so that's like a subtle form. And I'm using that as just an example because it's in the recent mind. And so if I look at, my own pattern, obviously we have a lot of receipts to show a lot of flaws in what happened during the pandemic, and like the way that information was not honestly distributed, in a way that, I have the deepest sympathy for the people who actually, were manipulated during that period. And I think, okay, well, how come I wasn't manipulated? And as the receipts come in, I find myself, having actually seen fairly accurately what was going on. I think the weakness of fear. So all of my plant medicine journeys, I didn't have a strong fear of dying. Like, fundamentally, I've gone through my own death so many times, from my very first ayahuasca journey to all of these other things. I don't want to die. I love my life, but I'm not afraid. So there was not a lot of fear that could get into me that way. So that's one way that you can manipulate someone, is through fear. And the other part is that I don't wrap my goodness. My sense of goodness is not wrapped up in whether I'm better than somebody else. It's wrapped up in my relationship with God, a God that I know.
Yeah.
So that there was there weren't levers that were able to actually affect me in a way. So without those levers, I was able to, have a proper amount of skepticism and look in, and not certainty. I would never say that I was certain about anything, but I had enough skepticism that I was able to kind of navigate through this incredible, what could be seen as like the biggest psyop that's ever been conducted.